Saturn is known as the most beautiful planet in the solar system, but behind that beauty lies one of astronomy's greatest mysteries. Those magnificent rings are not solid objects. They are made from billions of separate particles of ice, dust, and rock orbiting Saturn at incredible speed. Some particles are as tiny as grains of sand, while others are as large as mountains. Together, they create glowing bands so enormous they can be seen from Earth through telescopes. Yet, despite centuries of study and decades of space exploration, scientists still do not fully understand how Saturn's rings formed, why they exist, or how long they will survive. The mystery began in the early 17th century when the Italian astronomer Galileo Galilei turned one of the world's first telescopes towards Saturn. What he saw confused him completely. Saturn did not look round like the other planets. Instead, it appeared to have strange objects attached to its sides. Galileo described the planet as having ears or handles. At one point, those strange shapes even disappeared, leaving Galileo shocked and unable to explain what was happening. The truth was something no human had imagined before. Saturn was surrounded by giant rings, but Galileo's telescope was too primitive to reveal them clearly. Years later, the Dutch astronomer Christian Huygens finally solved the mystery. Using a better telescope, he proposed that Saturn was surrounded by a thin, flat ring that never touched the planet itself. It was one of the most revolutionary discoveries in the history of astronomy. For the first time, humans realized planets could possess structures unlike anything seen on Earth. As telescopes improved, astronomers discovered Saturn's rings were far more complex than they first appeared. They were not smooth or simple. Instead, the rings contained dark gaps, divisions, and countless smaller bands. One of the largest gaps became known as the Cassini division after the astronomer Giovanni Domenico Cassini discovered it in the 17th century. Scientists still debated the true nature of the rings. Were they solid disks? Were they liquid? Nobody knew. The answer finally arrived in the 19th century when physicist James Clerk Maxwell used mathematics to solve the mystery. Maxwell proved that Saturn's rings could not be solid. If they were, gravity would tear them apart. Instead, the rings had to consist of countless individual particles orbiting Saturn independently. His calculations were so brilliant that he solved one of astronomy's greatest mysteries without ever traveling to space. But even Maxwell could never have imagined how strange Saturn's rings truly were. The space age transformed humanity's understanding of Saturn forever. In the late 1970s and early 1980s, the spacecraft Voyager 1 and Voyager 2 flew past Saturn and captured images that stunned the world. Scientists expected a few simple rings, but instead they discovered thousands of separate ringlets woven together in incredibly complex patterns. Some appeared braided together like strands of rope. Others contained mysterious dark markings called spokes, stretching across the rings like giant shadows. Tiny moons orbited near the rings, shaping them through gravity. These moons acted like cosmic shepherds, controlling the edges of the rings and preventing them from spreading apart. Saturn suddenly looked less like a planet and more like a giant gravitational machine operating with incredible precision. One of the strangest facts about Saturn's rings is their size. The rings are unbelievably wide. If they were placed around Earth, they would stretch far beyond the distance between Earth and the Moon. Yet despite this enormous width, the rings are incredibly thin. In many places, they are only about 10 meters thick, thinner than a small building. Imagine a structure hundreds of thousands of kilometers wide, but thinner than a road. Scientists still consider this one of the most remarkable features of the ring system. Most of the ring particles are made of water ice, which is why Saturn's rings shine so brightly in sunlight. Some chunks are pure ice, reflecting light like giant mirrors in space. The brightness of the rings creates another mystery, because space is full of dust and radiation that slowly darken objects over time. If Saturn's rings were as old as the solar system itself, they should appear much darker than they do today. Instead, they still look bright and relatively clean. This has led many scientists to believe Saturn's rings may actually be young. One theory suggests the rings formed when a moon wandered too close to Saturn and was destroyed by the planet's enormous gravity. Saturn possesses powerful tidal forces capable of tearing apart celestial objects that cross a boundary known as the Roche limit. Once inside this region, gravity stretches objects so strongly that they break into pieces. The fragments could then spread into orbit around Saturn and gradually form rings. Another theory proposes that a giant comet or asteroid collided with one of Saturn's moons billions of years ago. The impact may have blasted enormous quantities of ice and debris into space. Over time, gravity shaped the material into rings. Scientists now know the rings are slowly disappearing. Tiny particles from the rings constantly fall into Saturn's atmosphere in a process called ring rain. Data collected by NASA revealed that Saturn absorbs massive amounts of ring material every day. This means the rings may only exist for a limited time before vanishing forever. Some estimates suggest the rings could disappear within a few 100 million years. On a human timescale, that sounds unimaginably long, but in cosmic history, it is actually very short. This raises an incredible possibility. Humanity may exist during a special moment in Saturn's history, the exact era when the planet possesses its spectacular rings. The most important mission ever sent to Saturn was the legendary Cassini-Huygens spacecraft. Launched in 1997, Cassini traveled for nearly 7 years before reaching Saturn. Once there, it spent more than 13 years studying the planet, its moons, and its rings in extraordinary detail. Cassini transformed our understanding of Saturn forever. The spacecraft discovered that Saturn's rings are not calm or static structures. They are constantly changing and moving. Waves ripple across the rings due to gravitational interactions with Saturn's moons. Small, hidden moonlets create disturbances inside the rings as they orbit. Some particles temporarily stick together before breaking apart again. The rings behave almost like a giant liquid, despite being made entirely of separate pieces of ice and rock. Cassini also captured some of the most beautiful photographs ever taken in space exploration history. One famous image showed Earth as a tiny, pale dot beneath Saturn's glowing rings from more than 1 billion kilometers away. Another revealed sunlight passing through the icy material, making the rings glow gold, blue, and white like a cosmic painting. But Cassini's discoveries also created new mysteries. One of the strangest involved mysterious dark features known as spokes. These shadow-like structures appear suddenly across the rings and then disappear again. Scientists believe they may be caused by electrically charged dust particles levitating above the rings due to Saturn's magnetic field. In other words, parts of Saturn's rings may actually float above the main ring plane like hovering clouds of dust. Cassini also helped scientists estimate the mass and age of the rings. Surprisingly, the results suggested the rings might only be between 100 million and 400 million years old. That means dinosaurs may have walked on Earth before Saturn even had rings. This discovery shocked scientists because Saturn itself formed more than 4 billion years ago alongside the rest of the solar system. If the rings are truly young, then humanity may simply be lucky enough to witness them during their brief existence. However, not all scientists agree. Some researchers argue the rings could still be ancient, but continuously refreshed by hidden processes. Tiny meteor impacts may expose fresh ice beneath darker material, keeping the rings bright over billions of years. The debate remains unresolved, making Saturn's rings one of astronomy's greatest unsolved mysteries. Saturn's ring system is also far more complicated than most people realize. The planet possesses multiple major rings labeled alphabetically in the order they were discovered. The largest are known as the A, B, and C rings, but there are also the D, E, F, and G rings. Each has unique properties. The B ring is the brightest and most massive. The F ring is chaotic and twisted, constantly shaped by nearby moons. The E ring is enormous and surprisingly diffuse, stretching far into space. Scientists later discovered that Saturn's moon, Enceladus, plays a major role in feeding material into the E ring. Enceladus is covered in ice and contains a hidden ocean beneath its frozen surface. Giant geysers near its south pole blast water vapor and ice particles into space. Some of this material escapes into orbit around Saturn and becomes part of the E-ring. This discovery changed the way scientists viewed Saturn's system. Enceladus soon became one of the most exciting locations in the search for extraterrestrial life. Beneath its icy crust lies a warm ocean of liquid water heated by gravitational energy. Scientists believe hydrothermal activity may exist on the ocean floor, similar to deep-sea vents on Earth where life can survive without sunlight. Some researchers now consider Enceladus one of the best places in the solar system to search for alien microorganisms. Saturn's largest moon, Titan, is equally mysterious. Titan possesses a thick atmosphere filled with orange clouds. It has rivers, lakes, rain, and even seas, but not made of water. Instead, Titan's lakes contain liquid methane and ethane. The moon is so strange that scientists often describe it as an alien version of Earth. Together, Saturn, its rings, and its moons form one of the most extraordinary systems in the solar system. The gravity of Saturn's moons constantly shapes the rings in complex ways. Small shepherd moons orbit near ring edges and use gravity to keep narrow rings confined. One famous moon, Prometheus, repeatedly disturbs the F ring, creating bizarre patterns in the icy material. Another moon, Pandora, helps maintain the ring's outer edge. Scientists also discovered hidden propeller-shaped structures inside the rings caused by tiny moonlets too small to become full moons. As these objects move through the rings, they disturb surrounding particles and create giant patterns resembling airplane propellers. Saturn itself remains a mysterious world. The planet is composed mostly of hydrogen and helium and is so light that it could theoretically float in a gigantic ocean large enough to hold it. Winds inside Saturn's atmosphere can exceed 1,800 kilometers per hour. Massive storms rage across the planet, including a strange hexagonal storm at the North Pole larger than Earth itself. Nobody fully understands why this giant hexagon exists. Another astonishing discovery revealed that Saturn's rings may help scientists study the hidden interior of the planet.